Hello and welcome to Kalam IS. This is New Simply Put, dated 12th December 2024, and let's get started. The topics for today are the first ice free day in the Arctic could come by 2030, and why does it matter? The second is about the motion to impeach Allahabad High Court judge. The last one is about why the big cats kill their young. All of them can be found in the Indian Express Explained section. These are the clippings that can help you locate better. And let's get started. So, the first topic is about ice free Arctic Ocean by 2030. So, this seems quite interesting in a way that a lot of research has been done and the study has been published by Nature Communications, which talks about that there could be a ice free day. So, what does a ice free day basically mean? It means that there will be an area which would be of approximately 1 million square kilometer and there will be no sea ice, right? And that could happen by 2030. So particularly the polar areas are famous for being covered with snow and ice, and also for the temperature extremes where there is 6 months of daylight and 6 months of night. However, this condition is now seeming to be possibly going, right? So why is that happening? That is because obviously because of global warming and climate change, and the rate of this has increased so much that now ice sheets are declining at a very fast rate. So what is the very fast rate? It is basically 12 to 13% in one decade. So this is unmatched in the last 1500 years. So this is the important part, that the rate at which it is going is so fast that this has not happened in the last 1500 years, and that is why it's happening in like not even say 10 years. 2030, we are already in 2025 now, right? So in 5 years this could possibly happen. Now, how is that basically figured out? So, there were a lot of simulations which were done across 11 climate models, and these were done for the years 2023 to 2100. Like around 366 simulations were done, and according to that, the prediction was made that that could happen in another 7 to 20 years. And nine simulations basically suggested that that could happen within 3 to 6 years. So out of the 336 simulations that happened, these were the results, and this is the number which is telling that the rigor of the academic research and the modeling was quite a lot to confirm that yeah, this could actually be a possibility. So what are the conditions for the ice free days? Having studied the econometric modeling, we are understanding that what are the geographical conditions for the same. So firstly, obviously it requires an unusually warm winter, right? And it also requires stormy weather. So as we all know that whenever there is a wind, right, it increases the amount of or the intensity of hotness or the coldness of the weather. How is that the case? So in May or June, you must have seen that it is warm, but due to the loo, right, it becomes even warm. Like that is when exactly we have heat waves and stuff like that. So wind is something which exacerbates the existing condition of temperature. So similarly here, stormy weather could basically lead to more rapid melting, and specific conditions must persist for years to achieve an ice free day. So this is what it is talking about. Now what are the consequences? Obviously, one is the climate change acceleration due to the albedo effect. So what is albedo effect? Basically, albedo effect means that how much is the intensity to which a particular substance can reflect back the sunlight. So ice being white in color, right, they have the maximum intensity to reflect the sunlight that falls on them. However, once this ice becomes water, right, so for example, if they were reflecting 99% of the light, now here it will only be able to reflect say 50%, and the other 50% will be absorbed by the water here. So basically 50% of the heat will be absorbed, leading to an increase in the warming of water. Now this warm water, when in contact with this ice, right, this is the warm water and here it is in contact with this kind of ice. So this warm water will again melt this ice, which will again lead to increased water formation, basically melting, and that melting will again affect the albedo. So this is kind of a vicious cycle that goes, right? Once you start having the ice melt, because of the warm water, it further intensifies the action on the ice, making even this melt, and therefore then this also gets warm again, and again the action happens on the new ice, and the cycle continues. So again this could lead to extreme weather patterns, right? Rising sea levels also, so average global level sea rise could happen at a particular rate, and this is basically 1.5 times faster than that happened in 1990s. Ecosystem disruption is likely to happen obviously, because polar bears, walrus, and reindeer are the species which will not be able to thrive in this kind of a warm environment. Predictions and implications are very clear that if the first ice free day happens, then ice free periods must last between 11 to 53 days. So it's like once you start having a particular day, that will go on for a longer time, and like I've told you, the vicious cycle will become even more intensified. Then the ice free month could happen, right? And this basically brings us to the need of reducing the GHG, right? And that could basically need that even, and in fact it's also saying that even if the current GHG reductions are happening at the rate we have envisaged, then also it might be difficult to prevent an ice free month or a day in the 7 to 20 year span that has been predicted. So this is the kind of intensity that is happening, and this further increases the urgency, right? So that is what it is saying, that there is the kind of talks that we are having in the COP conferences, they indicate no amount of intensity and urgency, but yeah, there is a need for the same, and that is the only thing that can protect the vulnerable ecosystem. Going forward, we're talking about the infanticides in big cats. So it might look weird if you hear that you have a mother and the mother kind of kills the own child, right? This is something which is unheard in humans, right? But this is kind of a possibility in big cats. So this is what the article is saying, that let us understand their behavior. Why do they really do so? So there are several reasons. First is the male infanticide. So for example, this is male 1 and this is male 2, right? And this is the same territory where they share their habitat. So if this male 2 lands up having certain cubs, and this has only one cub, right? So this male is likely to kill these cubs, because once they grow up, when they grow up, so they are likely to occupy this territory and expand this territory to the extent of exterminating this initial male one and their cub, right? So because of competition, right, there is this thing that the male basically consumes the infant of the other competitive, the offspring of the other competitive male or female cub or lion, right? So this is done to ensure that they are able to secure their territories. You must have seen that among animals, even in a stray dogs, the thing for territory and the fight for food is huge, right? They are very violent when it comes to territory. They also urinate the areas to mark their territory. So this is basically a very big concern for them. So to ensure their survival and to ensure its sustenance, they actually go on extreme limits. This is one possible event. However, this is not the only thing or not the major thing. This kind of minor thing, but there are other reasons why the infanticides happen. So the first one is because the mothers may also kill if they find it very unhealthy. And so if there are five cubs, and if suppose two of them are very unhealthy, so they might be killed, because the mother has very less resources. So she might just want to give those limited resources to the healthy ones, so that they can thrive, rather than dividing the resources among so many people, and these are likely to die only. So why not basically increase their sustenance and livelihood? So in this case also, mothers practice selective rejection, right, and they abandon their cubs. So this is also to basically improve the survival rate and to make the generation stronger. So in this sense, this is more of a necessity, right? So in that sense, you have to understand that it's not always an emotional response, that we have to always imagine and understand the situation. We have to be very all rounded in our dimensions and understand that जैसे गांधी जी भी कहते हैं, necessity is the mother of invention, right? So here also animals, like, they have this. In fact, you must have also heard about the horse latitude, how it was named horse, because of a similar thing, right? That how when it came to survival, some sacrifices had to be made. So this is something which is found here. Similarly, there are other reasons also that sometimes accidental deaths happen during maternal handling. So inexperienced mothers intentionally or unintentionally harm their cubs during their care. So they're not very aware of how to go about with things. That is also the case with human mothers also. Like some mothers are not very aware, and when they become pregnant at a very young age, and when they are themselves very childish, that kind of thing happens here in humans also. Similarly, hormonal imbalance and inexperience during conception and delivery basically impact maternal behavior. So mothers who were basically orphaned during their own childhood, and when they become mothers for the first time, they struggle a lot with nurturing. So that is also a factor that leads to this. Now this has also happened in specific zoos, like when there's this lioness in Kigali who devoured her cubs while grooming due to anxiety. So some people basically due to anger or due to anxiety, the reaction is so intense and so violent that even they don't realize at the heat of the moment that what has basically happened. But yeah, that could lead to the death of the own cubs. And in animals, their violent and their intensity sometimes is unexplained, and that unexplained reasons is basically due to their own genetics or due to their own upbringing or their own environment. So in that sense also this explains. Similarly, tigress's Rika accidental death of her cubs was due to mishandling. So these were specific cases. And there is also stress and insecurity. So when captive mother cats, they react aggressively when startled or insecure. So in this case, they harm their own cubs. So sometimes people don't react how to understand. They don't basically understand well how to react in stress, and more often than not, they land up harming themselves. Again, this is also a case which is seen in human beings when they try to commit suicides or when they try to harm themselves. In this case, also they harm their own cubs. So this is an extension of that behavior, but in a very large intensity, right? So going forward, there's also resource management. Like I said, that animals kill unviable offspring to conserve resources, like I said, and mothers themselves consume the dead cubs for energy or to move them to avoid predators. And so therefore, the misunderstanding of behavior that we have is basically more to the fact that it is based on their instinct and their necessity. So you have to understand this and not always blend it down on emotional reasoning. This is basically a survival strategy in the wild. So that is how it is. And going forward, yeah, so the author says that it is basically a very complex behavior, right? And this is basically very important to understand going forward if we want to take care for our animal conservation and strategies. So this is very important for Indian Forest Services, and even for your general understanding to how to basically get a better understanding of the wild. So the last is about the impeachment process, a look at the Indian judiciary. So the context is about Justice Yadav, who made very derogatory and controversial remarks at a Vishwa Hindu Parishad event. So basically, a lot of comments were made on the majority rule, or on how the law and majority are working, on how the uniform civil code has to function, or also there were relations with the fact that even India's future could only be basically determined by the majority rule, as the Vishwa Guru had the spirit of the majority religion. So there were also that reportedly stated that the children in one community were taught values of kindness and non-violence. However, in the other community, they are witnessing animal slaughter. So how will they learn kindness and non-violence and such values? So there were a lot of derogatory and controversial remarks basically by Justice Yadav, and in this context, it incited a lot of slack, and even Supreme Court has requested a detailed report regarding these remarks. And this has actually led the opposition parties to basically prepare to move a motion so that this judge could basically be impeached. And now this basically brings us to the ground of impeachment, that what exactly is the mechanism of this. And there are two grounds of impeachment: one is proved misbehavior and the other is incapacity. So let's understand how this is basically done and where are the constitutional provisions. So obviously one is the Article 124, the other is Article 218, and this has to be seen together with the Judges Inquiry Act of 1968. So, having understood the context and the constitutional relation, now we're understanding in detail. So, like I said, Article 124, Article 218, and Article Judge Inquiry Act 1968 delineate the steps. So, how does the process really happen? So, basically, firstly, there is an initiation of the motion where the motion will be signed by at least 100 members in Lok Sabha or 50 members in Rajya Sabha, right? And it could be initiated either in Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, but once it is initiated, these are the different conditions for the sign thing, right? So now the motion, once you've got the relevant numbers, that is basically given to the speaker or the chair, and the speaker or the chair reviews if the motion is rightly placed, and if they think it is rightly placed, then they form a three-member committee, right? Now the three-member committee has Supreme Court judge, it basically has the Chief Justice of High Court, and it has a distinguished jurist. So these three members, they further investigate the motion, right? And once the committee forms, they investigate the allegations, they then investigate it and submit the report. After concluding, they submit the report to either the speaker or the chairman in whichever house it was basically initiated. And now, basically, then the speaker presents it to the respective house. So, what happens then is that if in the report it is found that the person is not guilty, then the case is over. However, if the case reveals that the person is guilty, the report is then adopted. And once the report is adopted, then a motion must be passed. So now, when the motion is passed, it's basically a special majority where you need two-thirds of majority of present and voting, and you need the majority of total membership, right? So once this is done and you've passed the motion, it moves to the president, where you seek the assent, and that is when finally the removal happens. So just summing it and making it easy, in whichever house it is introduced, be it Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, right, you need 100 members or 50 members, then it goes to the speaker or the chair who thinks that चलो इसको देखना है कि नहीं देखना. अगर उनको लगता है देखना है तो वो कमेटी बनाते हैं. कमेटी बनाते हैं, उसमें 3 लोग होते हैं, सुप्रीम कोर्ट का जज, हाई कोर्ट का चीफ जस्टिस एंड एक डिस्टिंक्ट जूरिस्ट. उसके बाद ये कमेटी इन्वेस्टिगेट करती है. कमेटी इन्वेस्टिगेट करने के बाद वापस से स्पीकर को बताती है कि हमें ऐसा लगा, ऐसा नहीं लगा. तो अगर उन्हें लगता है कि गिल्टी नहीं है तो केस खत्म. अगर गिल्टी है फिर क्या करेंगे? अगर गिल्टी है तो उसके बाद वो लोग बेसिकली एक मोशन पास करवाएंगे जहाँ पे स्पेशल मेजोरिटी का चेक होगा. स्पेशल मेजोरिटी से वी हैव टू पास इट, राइट? So if that is the case, then it moves to the president. So that is the entire sequence of the impeachment thing, and that is found in Article 124, 218 and Judges Inquiry Act 1968. ये तीनों को मिला के ये पूरा प्रोसेस बनाया गया है, राइट? सो दिस इज़ अबाउट द न्यूज़. अब क्या ये पहले कभी हुआ है? सो देखने की बात तो ये है कि 6 अटेम्प्ट्स हुए हैं, बट नन ऑफ देम हैव वेरी सक्सेसफुली लेड टू अ जजेस रिमूवल. In fact, Judge Justice V. Ramaswamy in 1993, the proceedings were initiated, but the motion basically failed. Similarly, Justice Soumitra Sen, 2011. Basically, here, so he resigned only before a scheduled voting after being impeached by Rajya Sabha, right? सो मतलब राज्यसभा में हुआ था, तो लोकसभा में जाने से पहले जो डिस्कशन, जैसे मैंने आपको बताया ना कि 2 हाउसेस में जाता है डिस्कशन, राइट? सो एक हाउस में इम्पीच हुआ तो दूसरे हाउस में जाने से पहले उन्होंने रिजाइन कर दिया. So basically that's what they are saying, that most of the emotions basically fail. So what do we really derive from this? The fact that the process is very rigorous, that it's a lengthy process where even the speaker gets to check कि हाँ ये मोशन में दम है या नहीं है. अगर उन्हें लगे दम है फिर ही वो कमेटी बनाते हैं और फिर ही इन्वेस्टिगेट होता है. तो इतना रिगरस है और इतना लंबा है, तो इससे ये एक बात तो ज़रूर है कि जुडिशियल ऑटोनॉमी जो कि है वो तो प्रोटेक्ट होती ही होती है, राइट? साथ में थोड़ा सा पॉलिटिकल नेचर भी आता है, क्योंकि थोड़ा सा स्पीकर की भी इन्फ्लुएंस रहता है, थोड़ा सा पॉलिटिकल नेचर ऑफ प्रोसीडिंग्स में इन्फ्लुएंस रहने की बात रहती है. हाउएवर, in a way it also gives way to promote accountability of the judges. So at least एक जो कोड ऑफ कंडक्ट हमारी बात होती है जजेस की, जो बैंगलोर प्रिंसिपल्स की बात होती है कि हमें जजेस के लिए ये सब चीज़ें इंश्योर करनी चाहिए, एटलीस्ट अगर ये चीज़ इतनी बड़ी हो जाती है, देन दिस बेसिकली ब्रिंग्स द फैक्ट दैट द कॉन्डक्ट हैज़ टू बी इन लाइन विथ वॉट इज एक्सपेक्टेड. So this is what the article is about. Let's move to the final PYQ. So there are basically four statements: one, two, three, four. Once you see such a statement, you try to eliminate it by seeing सबसे ज़्यादा कौन सा रिपीट हो रहा है. आप ऐसे लंबे स्टेटमेंट्स में पहले ऑप्शंस देखा करो अपने काम आसान करने के लिए. ऑप्शन वन टू वन थ्री है, फोर फोर फोर. फोर तीन ऑप्शंस में आ रहा है, तो सबसे पहले फोर को ही पढ़ लेते हैं. पता चला कि अगर फोर गलत है तो तीनों चले जाएंगे, और अगर फोर सही है तो हम थोड़ा सा यहाँ पे वापस आके वर्क कर सकते हैं. तो इतने लंबे क्वेश्चंस में पहले हमें ऑप्शंस में आना चाहिए. सो कैसे हैं यहाँ पे, ऑल अपॉइंटमेंट्स ऑफ द ऑफिसर्स एंड द स्टाफ ऑफ सुप्रीम कोर्ट आर मेड बाय द गवर्नमेंट ओनली आफ्टर कंसल्टिंग द चीफ जस्टिस ऑफ इंडिया. सो आपको लगा नहीं यहाँ पे एक्सट्रीम दो दो हो गया, ऑल भी हो गया एंड ओनली भी हो गया. अब आप सोचिए सुप्रीम कोर्ट में कोई 10-15 एक सपोज एक साल के लिए हमने किसी चौकीदार को अपॉइंट करना है, तो क्या आपको लगता है इतने बड़े काम के, इतने छोटे काम के लिए चीफ जस्टिस ऑफ इंडिया को बुलाएंगे? है ना. स्टाफ तो किसी चीज़ के लिए भी हो सकता है. हाँ, सपोज कोई बहुत समय से हाउस कीपिंग के लिए नहीं आ रहा है, तो हम सोचेंगे यार चलो, आई मीन स्टाफ कुड बी जस्ट एवरीथिंग एंड एनीथिंग फ्रॉम द स्मॉलेस्ट टू द बिगेस्ट थिंग. डू यू थिंक दैट कंसल्टिंग द CGI वुड बी अ सेंसिबल थिंग? सो ये स्टेटमेंट ही अपने आप में इतना एक्सट्रीम है, तो ये सब कटेगा एंड ऑब्वियसली आपको वहाँ ये आंसर मिल जाएगा. दिस सेव्स योर टाइम. ऑल्सो इफ यू डोंट हैव द नॉलेज, you can go again by common sense, like I always say, right? And this actually is the kind of thing where where UPS is trying to, trying to tire you down with long statements, but you are very smart when you play with the options. So these are the kind of things I want you to imbibe. Let's go forward. How did the melting of Arctic ice and glaciers of the Antarctic differently affect the weather patterns and human activities? Explain. So please send the answer on Telegram, and please put on the comment box in the YouTube channel about your feedback.